Alright, so we have learned about the RGB colors. Now we will be learning about the hexadecimal colors and how they are different from RGB colors. Alright, so basically the hexadecimal colors are a shorter representation of the RGB colors. That is all. Okay, so as you can see, I have done some of the comments here, and here it is. This is an example of a hexadecimal color. Okay, and it starts with the hash symbol, and then we have six like characters here, which can go from 0 to FF. So from 0 to double F. That is all. And to understand what does this signifies, I have done some breaking down of this color. Basically, what happens is that after this hash symbol, the first two digit, which is A1 in our case, will represent the red color. Then the next two digits will represent the green color, and the next two digits will represent the blue color. And each of the values can go from 0 to FF. FF is the maximum, which basically you can think of FF represents 255 in RGB, something like this, and we will definitely discuss that. Okay, so why to use hexadecimal colors? Hexadecimal colors in the use case are a bit shorter than the RGB colors, right? So if I go here, as you can see, this is the RGB color for black, and here this is the hexadecimal color for black, which is very short as compared to RGB. This is one of the reasons. And now one of the things what happens here, and which is a little bit confusing, is that there are these characters here with the numbers, and what do they represent? Let's understand that. So we have the number system, right? Basically, we are using the decimal number system, which goes from 0 to 9. Okay, and we can construct every number from 0 to 9, right? But if we want to go beyond 9, what we have to use 10, right? So in that case, we do not have a single number which represents 10. Okay, we do not have a single number that represents 10. So what we use in the hexadecimal number system is A instead of 10. You might argue that, hey, 10 is 1 and 0, but again, this is not a single number. We have to combine multiple numbers. So in that way, what happens is that we use A to represent 10, B to represent 11, C to represent 12, D to 13, E 14, and F to 15. And now you might be thinking, okay, so this is hexadecimal numbers, but it is going up to 15. But this is not the case, because we have started our count from 0, right? So if you count the length of this number, it will be 16. Okay, there are 16 characters which representing the numbers. So this is basically the hexadecimal number system. And don't get into the conversion of the hexadecimal to decimal numbers. This is beyond the scope of CSS. Just I wanted to show you this. That is why I discussed. So now let's do some examples here, right? Basically, what happens, these letters are the placeholder for the numbers, what we have discussed. Now let's go and do some examples. Something like this. So in RGB, if we want to use black color, what we have to do, RGB and then 0, 0, and 0. In hexadecimal, what we can do 0, 0, again 0, 0, and 0, 0. Basically here, the first RGB value was for red. So here we have to use 2 zeros instead of 1. We can shorten it to something like hash 0, 0, 0, and this is also black. I will get into that in a bit. But To understand in general, the first two digits after this hash symbol is for the red color, then the next two digits will be for the green color, and the next two digits will be for the blue color. And here I have given you the example of that as well. And there is something which I want to point out here is that the shade of red, green and blue will not match with the RGB or the hexadecimal colors. These are a little bit different shade. I wanted to just name that, and the color highlight extension is highlighting the color, that is why. So don't worry, this is the proper, like the hex color or the RGB color represents the proper color, right? We have the named colors for our, like, to help us understand the colors, but these are the proper colors. All right, so if we want to have the red color, what we need to do, hash then ff, which goes to the maximum, the red color, and then 0000. That means there is the red to the maximum and there is no green and there is no blue. Once again, we have the green color, which is hash 00ff00. That means 00 for red, ff, that means fullest for green, and then 00, which means 0 for blue. So in RGB, if we want to convert that, let's go to blue and then we will convert that, right? So for blue, we have hash 0000ff. That means 0 for red, 0 for green, and for blue it is the full maximum. So ff, basically the ff can represent 255. This represents 255. So if we want to convert this green color to the RGB color, so what we have to do, basically we have to do RGB, and then we have to do 0 comma 255 comma 0, and this is the green value, right? So this is the green color. All right, so this is basically the hex colors in CSS. And again, you might be thinking like, hey, this is more complicated than RGB colors. How I'm gonna remember everything? You don't. You will use the color picker, and that is basically it. So if I just go here for this H1 basically, and if I just click on here and click on this color, as you can see, VS Code converts that to hex color, and I can change it up here as well. So let's make it a little bit of the blue, something like this. And the basic understanding of color is necessary, and nobody will expect you to just see this hex code and tell like, hey, what color is that? No, this is not practical, right? So but to understand that, so you can say like, hey, so this is 00 for red, so there is no red. There is a little bit of the like green, right? And there is a good amount of blue. This is basically it. Okay, so this is the understanding which you need. And again, you have the color picker. You will definitely use some sort of color picker to pick up the colors, right, for your website. All right, so this is basically the hex colors in CSS.